players. I'm going to remind everybody in the chat, we will be giving away our second Saquon Barkley jersey. The link is pinned at the top. Become a member today. We will be doing that on Birds 365 later in the week, maybe Monday or Tuesday. So look out for that. Guys, next topic I want to get to, and Dan, I'm going to start with you on this one, is Nick Sirianni, right? A lot of flack today he got. I'm going to get to all super chats, by the way, later in the show, but this one is about Nick Sirianni. Terry, thank you for your support. Terry says, definitely got to get rid of the head coach. He almost ruined the game. You win that game in a tight one. Nick made some costly decisions, though, in that game that are going to be under the microscope all week long. Dan, I'm going to go to you first on this. What's your thoughts on Nick Sirianni coming out of that game and some of the decisions he made in the football game?
Okay, I'll do it again. Decision-making by the head coach, again, it's been spotty since the beginning of the year. I mean, here's what you got to look at with him. Do you agree that you're going on the road for a second week in a row without your best player on the football team? Then you lose your second or third best player, Devontae Smith. Then you lose half your offensive line. Points are a premium. You have got to take points on the road in a place like that where there's not a lot of points being scored. Look, like John says, or you say it too, Zander, welcome to the world of Nick Sirianni at being aggressive. He wasn't very good even on the fourth downs. That's not the same tush-push team without Jason Kelce. They are not. They're not the same team. And with the quarterback not having all of his weapons out there, I'm taking the for sure opportunity at getting my points. Take the points. You're on the road, as I said, hostile environment. The other team's not playing great. Your defense is playing lights out. I mean, we thought at times this thing was going to be an over 55-point game. You thought points were going to be put up, and all of a sudden there weren't any points. Defense showed up. I mean, I don't know. Some of the decision at the end of the football game, the way that he was involved in those decisions going into the half and into the end of the ball game, I don't know, John. I mean, I completely disagree with people that when you look at his game management, this was something Andy Reid struggled with in Philly, was game management. This guy's not he's not adverse not to criticism as well.
I don't think fourth downs are about game management as much as from the perspective you're talking about Andy and by the way, I mean, Andy might be the greatest coach of all time at this point. He's easily top 10. You can make a very strong argument he's top 5. And you still got people in this town that say he's terrible at game management. Well, he's done pretty well with his terrible ability to manage games. What does fourth down have to do with game management? I mean, and you look at particularly, they were 1 for 3, right? They're 1 for 3. And the 2 they missed, and Greg Olson did a great job on the broadcast explaining one of them. Dallas Goedert's wide open. And Jahan Dotson's not getting not getting out of the way as the decoy. And Jalen Hurts has got to eat the ball. So that's a good play call similar to last week with Saquon dropping the football. That's a good play call by Kellen Moore. It's going to succeed. Lack of execution, in this case, by Jahan Dotson. Going away from the tush push and getting a little bit too cute to Saquon Barkley. I thought that was a mistake, not only from the standpoint of getting too cute, but also, what are you going to do at that late juncture? You only got 1 or 2 more plays. So I would have taken the field goal there. But these are not egregious mistakes. The one, and again, Zander knows what I'm going to say here. People don't judge play calls. They judge play results. When they go for it in fourth down against Green Bay, everybody loves it. When they don't get it, everybody hates it. It's understandable human nature. But you got a play dialed up. It's going to work. And Jahan Dotson does the wrong route, is in the way. All right, maybe still learning the offense. Maybe from that perspective, you want to blame the coaching staff, blame them for that. They should know maybe he's not ready for this. And then you say, go in a different direction. I can't play this game of, it didn't work. That's a bad decision.
Why would you dial up a play for a guy that's not ready then? How that's decision making, John. If you're
they didn't dial up the play. They dialed up the play for the play for the guy who caught 10 passes for 170 yards. The other guy got in the way. They didn't dial up the play for Jahan Dotson.
Okay,
he didn't do a simple job of being a
There's
decoy.
nobody on the planet who would think that was a well thought out decisional making football game by the head coach. No one in their right mind would think that. Nobody would.
Yeah, but I don't think people think about it the right way. Again, Zander, I've talked to Zander about this. You could go on Google. I encourage everybody. I say, Google just in life, how to make good decisions. First thing you're going to read, good decision doesn't guarantee good outcome. Everybody thinks it does. It doesn't. Think about your own life. Everybody. You make good decisions. Sometimes you get a bad outcome because guess what? Life gets messy. Things get in the way. In the case of pro football, execution gets in the way. That was the third down, so it's not a fourth down. But a third down call last week, anybody who wants to say that was a bad play call doesn't understand what they're looking at. The guy's wide open to your best player. It's a 1-yard pass, an extension of the running game. You drop the football. That's not bad. That's a lack of execution. That's not a bad decision. There's two different things. In the case of Dotson, bad execution. In the case of getting too cute on the tush push, that's probably a bad decision, or more so. But you can make the argument if it's executed. I got to look at the play. I got to see how it was blocked. It's very difficult to make these judgments right away. It didn't look like he had much room. So, they probably got too cute. But as teams get more into this tush push, and I've said this pretty consistently with the tush push, I'd go completely away from it because now everybody's hyper focused on stopping it. I'd spread the field and let Jalen Hurts do a conventional quarterback sneak. I think that would be more effective at this stage. And these are all things the coaching staff should be discussing. But yeah, I can't say a bad outcome is necessarily a bad decision. The Eagles have been the forefront, and forget about Nick Sirianni. This goes back to Doug Peterson. They've been at the forefront of this league when it comes to aggression, and it has served them well. So to all of a sudden show up on one particular Sunday and say, you shouldn't do that anymore, I don't agree with that. I don't.
Yeah, I think there's been a blanket of analytics, though, that are over every decision. And it's like, if the analytics say do it, that's what we're going to do every time. Every game has a different feel, different moment, the end of the half is the best example, though. Everybody retweets the thing. Oh, they say to, take the field. I don't need analytics to tell me you should take a field goal when you're down 3-0 in a game where points are hard to come by. Take the damn field goal. There's 14 seconds on the clock.
On the road.
I think we're overthinking some of these decisions, and I think that's where Big Sills is coming
from.
Well,
on the fourth and 4, the analytics said take the field goal. They didn't. They don't listen just to the analytics. That's the point. They're aggressive. They're aggressive by nature because they think aggression over the long haul serves you well. They've already proven that's the case. Unfortunately, some other teams like Detroit have caught up, and they don't have as big as an advantage with that as they typically have had in the past. And maybe they should adjust because they used to have a huge advantage. It's become much lesser. But Dan Campbell dealt with the same thing. I say it all the time. The Lions were in position to execute to win an NFC championship game. Players didn't execute. Dan Campbell got killed for fourth down decisions. He got him there with aggression, and people want to say, oh, but you lost. You shouldn't have been aggressive. It's the reason why I was in the stinking game. That's why I kind of look at things a little bit differently.
Fair enough. Sills, last point, just because I want to move into this defense and continue to recap the game. I don't want to get stuck on Nick, but just any follow-up to why you think it was such a poorly executed.
Listen, again, he's in position. He's in a different position now. He's got nothing to do pretty much with the design of the plays any longer. He's more involved in decision-making when it comes to what play what John's talking about. Run the ball, throw a flare pass, go with the analytics. That's his job. And I cannot sit here and say that guy's done a good job in 3 games running the direction of the offense and running the direction of the football team. I won't. I think he's been inconsistent. for the 3 weeks. Whether, again, and by the way, let's do this. This is not just one game. I'm talking about the collection of the 3 because that's a trend.
It's been
When
very
you see
consistent.
when you see the trend of kind of
He's been very, I would argue,
mistakes.
I would argue he's been very consistent.
Yeah, of being inconsistent for sure.
He's aggressive. That's the consistency.
Okay.
But that's not inconsistent. Execution.
Well, that's not either. You're
is
going with the
inconsistent.
analytics, John.
Decision making is pretty consistent.
Okay, so if you're aggressive, but you're
It's
using
not going
analytics,
with the. I just explained it.
Okay, I don't see the game. You're right, John.
How are you using analytics?
No, you're right. I don't. I must not.
How do you? So next gen stats say the analytics say take the field goal. They go the opposite way, and they're still going by the analytics.
So, John, you think they use applied analytics?
I don't
when
get
putting a game plan together. You think that? You think when they use the analytics,
Jeffrey's
it's applied analytics. You think that that's what they do when they're making those decisions, especially down in the red zone? Or do you think they're doing it with gut?
No,
or do you think they're doing it with game flow?
Nick went on literally a 7-minute explanation last week. I encourage everybody to read it, find the transcript. They do studies on this kind of stuff all the time. And they lean on those particular studies that Nick Sirianni does, to the point where people were saying last week he dismissed the analytics, and Jeffrey Lurie's going to get upset by that because Jeffrey's very analytically driven. So the point, there were some people saying, oh boy, because Nick actually said anybody can go online and punch a bunch of numbers into 20 different websites and it tells you what to do. He doesn't do that. And some people thought, oh, you better watch it. You know, Jeffrey believes in analytics, believes in aggression for the reason I just explained. I think he's got a better handle on why it's done, and why they do it. And by the way, they're 2-1, and they're a drop pass away from being 3-0. Has it been ugly? Sure, it's been ugly. But as typically, they're finding ways to win games. And one of the reasons why we talk about this being a 60-minute football team, because you can get fired up about stopping a 4th down here. You can get fired up about stopping a 4th down there, and they're going to be back and doing it again. And simple math. You don't need analytics to say, you know, any team. One of the problems about the end of the game, when you're in a desperation situation as a defense trying to stop an offense, say an offense, any offense around the NFL gets the football with 1:30 left, no timeouts, and they're down 4 points, you know you have to stop 4 plays, not 3 plays. All times. 10 yards, 4 plays. That ain't easy. So when you constantly put that stress on the opposing defense, you can say, and again, this is proven over dating back to Doug Peterson, long before Nick Sirianni. This is proven to be a successful way of doing business for the Philadelphia Eagles. Should they change? You can make the argument, but it's revisionist history to say it hasn't worked for them.
My only problem, Sills, real quick, just because my only problem.
How about what I'll agree with one thing John says here. You're winning ball games like this early. This is something that you build on, you know, because you walk in, and I tried explaining this to people on our show by telling them, hey, if you're winning ugly now and your football team is playing C- football or C football, that's where you want to be if you're 2-1, like John said. I don't want to be playing my best football and winning close games like that where there's not a lot of room to grow. Eagles are probably playing C football right now, okay? Look at the room to grow that they have by the end of the year. You're 2-1, like you said. You go on the road, and you've won against 2 opponents that are NFC potential playoff teams that you may face down the road, especially since down in the NFC South, Tampa got beat, like John said, and now you got everybody bunched up down there in that division. So you may see this team, again, like they saw Tampa last year, early in the year, not a good team. Then they saw Tampa in the playoffs, and Tampa was a completely different team. They were the opposite of the Eagles of a year ago. So You get out of a game like this with all the injuries they have. By the way, since I've been covering the team, John, for 4 years, we're looking at a collection of injuries now that, as great as 22 was, boy, I'll tell you what, you head into week 4 here with the Buccaneers, man. You got a mass unit now that you're going to have to put together here a little bit when you go play Tampa, because they're going to be a hungry football team too. John, you said this. I believe you talked about the war of attrition. This is right here what we're talking about with the war of attrition here. So, again, you get the win here. There's no question about it. But I'll ask you, Zander, are you ready to still put that team in a position where you would call them a Super Bowl contender?
I mean, not yet. I want to move on.
Not yet.
I want to get to the defense.
With a chance, too.
I get it. Let me move on here. I want to move to the defense. I just want to give my last point here on Sirianni, because I understand what both you are saying. I don't like approaching any decision in a vacuum, whether it's under the guise of analytics or under the guise of aggression. I believe there should be some critical decision making based on any given scenario. And I think that's why people are upset with Nick. There doesn't seem to be any of that. And John, you pointed it out. It's aggression. It's aggression all the time, no matter what's going on. And I think there should be more thought process that goes into it. So that would be my one pushback on Nick. I do want to move on to Jalen Carter, though, and that defense.
Well, he mixes it in.
Go ahead, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, I mean, he went on 4th and 4 early last week, and he didn't go for 4th and whatever 3 or 4. And people are saying it's not. It does differ. He decided to give Jake Elliott a chance to kick a 60-yard field goal, which didn't work out. It's not the same, but people only see the failures, and they forget about the successes because everything's great. They only see the failure, which I get it. Nick gets it. That's the life of a head coach, but it doesn't make it right is all I'm trying to say.
Understood. Let's move on to the